Hello, everyone. We're so excited you're here. So I'm Aubrey. I'm a parent at Butler Montessori, and I am so delighted to be here with our upper elementary guides, Kelly Brown and Kelly Nguyen. Thanks for joining us today. They're going to tell us a little bit more about the upper elementary.
Thank you. This is great to be here. I know that you do a lot of work on media for us, so I'm happy to be a part of that and explain a little bit more about our program. We're the two upper elementary guides at Butler.
I'm Kelly Nguyen. I teach in the same classroom as Kelly Brown, but I have my own separate upper elementary classroom within the same space. And our classroom age, the children are age 9 through 12.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I'm right there with her. We share like kind of an adjacent classroom setting. There's a lot of Montessori materials that we can share and we can save and be a little bit more conserving of our resources that way. But at the same time, we've got plenty of space and we got all the acres around our classroom as well that we like to do outdoor education and the like. Plus, not to mention all the field trips that we're planning this year. We can do those together or separately as well. So
we're excited to be here. So what do you want to know about upper elementary?
Oh, so much. Let's get started on first, the upper elementary child. It's a little different from the lower elementary child. Can you tell us about what's happening with this upper elementary child between the ages of 9 and 12?
Yes, from a theoretical and training perspective, we're trying to teach the 6-year-old all the way up to the 12-year-old. So we both have experience teaching that 6 through 9-year-old, which is our lower elementary at Butler. The upper elementary extends those same lessons and extends those same theoretical principles. We believe in independence. We believe in the child is, better able to learn when they're given a really robust social environment, a mixed age classroom, but we do it on a little bit of a bigger physical scale. Our chairs are bigger, our tables are bigger, our classroom is bigger. It doesn't have to be a bigger classroom necessarily, but we find that this child is a little bit taller, a little bit longer. They haven't really lost as many baby teeth recently. They're starting to thin out and kind of maybe build more muscle that way. So we like to do more strenuous physical activity or physical education, longer hikes. So there are some definite physical considerations that we have to take here when we're planning our classroom space. There's also then the mental and the emotional changes. So academically, we're going much deeper into abstract math, much deeper into science lessons. Our understanding of history is a lot broader. I would say that this group still really loves to study the early human being and plan those field trips to the Natural History Museum that we've been preparing them for the last few years. But now they're really trying to study American history. What is American history? What is America? Politics, little geopolitics. And then Maryland history is another important part of our program too, because they're able to understand the difference between their state versus the surrounding area and what makes Maryland special. So I'd say academic depth is a big difference in addition to the physical changes they're going through. And then finally, I'll just finish with talking about the emotional and social differences. These children are very complex and very adept, well prepared socially at this point. They've had best friends for 3 years. They've had best friends for maybe longer than that if they're here in preschool, primary. And they are really digging into what does it mean to be a member of a community? How do communities work? How can everybody be happy in this same space together? How can we respect each other's feelings? I'm talking a lot about leadership with them right now. What does it look like to be a leader? And they're taking a lot more of the social freedoms and opportunities, I'd say, that we give them seriously. Whereas maybe in lower L, they're taking them for granted a little bit. They're just having a good time. They're just here to play with their friends. They really care about, can I go play, basketball with so-and-so? Now we're really planning ahead of time. Okay, so we're going to do basketball this day and we're going to do soccer this day so that everybody gets what they want to do. And they're thinking a little more big picture. And remember, we're doing the 9 through 12-year-olds. So we're right at the last edge of childhood before we get to adolescence. So we're really trying to take advantage of those last 3 years of childhood before they become a new person in adolescence, which we can get into probably on a different day, probably.
I definitely, when I was asked to return to the classroom and be an upper elementary guide, I was freaked out. I was like, they're a whole new different species. I don't know what I'm going to do with them. And I just went back to the basics and remembered the elementary curriculum is from age 6 to 12. And I have so much experience with that 6 to 9. They're literally the same child, just bigger, and their brains are bigger. Their arms are a little bit lankier, and they're still trying to figure out how to move about in the classroom, how to be a member of the community, how to be a contributing member of the community, not just a member. So they're really the same person, just bigger, thinking deep, and then getting them in that last little bit before they become an adolescent.
The time flies by. So I know a lot of people are curious about, okay, so what is like a day in the life of the upper elementary? Could you share with us what that looks like and maybe why it's scheduled the way it is?
Yeah. So one main component, I would say, of an AMI Montessori school, which is what Butler Montessori is, we're an AMI accredited Montessori school, is the 3-hour work period that we have each morning, and it's protected. And this is going to be pretty much consistent throughout your child's experience at Butler Montessori, whether they're in the primary, the lower elementary, or the upper elementary. They're going to have that 3 hours in the morning for lessons and for practicing the lessons. And sometimes that work is academic work. Sometimes it's emotional work, and sometimes it's physical, like we're going on a hike work, and sometimes it's social learning, what we were saying about learning how to be a community member. So those grace and courtesy lessons. And boy, are there so many grace and courtesy lessons that they can have in the upper elementary. It does not stop. So their day starts with coming into the classroom, washing their hands, putting away their things. They still have work records like they did in the lower elementary. So they're still recording what they're working on throughout the day. And depending on each child and each guide, their work record may vary a little bit, but essentially it's a record of the lessons that they have, the work that they've been working on. And that's for that 3 hour in the morning. Then there's lunch and recess, and we have lunch and recess together. And then in the afternoon, sometimes it's another 2-hour work period, and sometimes we have specials. We have music, art, Spanish, and PE as our specials here. And that's pretty much it, right?
Yeah,
it's not going to vary through, I don't know. Yeah, go ahead.
No, like to your point, it's very similar to the lower L in that we do have a lot of the same structural things, the 3 hours. And I just want to expand on that, what a work period is. You could think of that as like instructional time. So we're the two instructors. So we're the rigorous academic minded people. We're thinking about core subjects like math. We're thinking about language, science, geometry is a big part of our Montessori curriculum. And so we really do have to give a lot of lessons. And we need that as teachers during those mornings between 8:45, I would say, once the child gets here and settled, and like 11:45 is when we'll probably clean up for lunch. We do love to go outside. So we will sometimes take our afternoons and just have them outside. We have a planned outdoor time of PE once a week. We'll like to plan hikes together, joint hikes. Maybe we'll do that on a Friday or on a Monday. If it's like a week that might be like a week before a transition or a week after a transition, like a holiday break, we would plan like some outdoor time on top of the pre-scheduled times. But we really do need to protect those instructional times. That's why we call it a morning work period. And then I think we have 2 afternoons of instructional, like afternoon work periods as well, besides the music class, which really is quite instructional as well. And the art class, we've got really specialized trained people who are coming in on our afternoon times to give the music lessons, the art lessons, and then the Spanish lessons as well. Those are our 3 main specialists that we have in addition to our team right here.
Yeah.
So.
And as a parent, I should add, a parent of an upper school student, that I truly love hearing about the different specials, like, oh, today is this day, and this is what we did, and then seeing the results of it. It really is really fun. So thank you for sharing the day in the life of Upper L.